to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday, and we have a What Would Lou Do show today. A listener wrote in about a client who, after getting his product, doesn't want to pay. It's a pretty sticky situation. Before we get to that, I'd like to thank Kirsch for sponsoring the show. You know Kirsch is reliable, dependable, and innovative. So think of them when you need to specify drapery hardware. From the motorized Breeza collection to the recently updated Buckingham collection to the tried and true architectural collections. Go to Kirsch.com to find a dealer near you. So here is the letter from our listener. Hi, LuAnn. I have a real doozy that I've tried without success to sort out and would appreciate your advice. I started over a year ago with a couple who agreed to proceed with 2 projects. I provided a proposal outlining the scope of work, fees, and required number of meetings to complete the job for each project. The proposal also included terms and conditions, which I reviewed with them and they agreed to. These were as follows. The consulting fee is based on the scope of work at the rate of $150 per hour for phase 2 and 3, the design and procurement phases. All furniture, trades, and case goods are sourced from our suppliers and are billed at a designer discount rate of 10%, which in most cases pays for or exceeds the cost of designer consulting fees. Upon acceptance of this proposal, a deposit of 100% is required for phase 2 consulting fees. Balance owing for phase 3 will be due in meeting 6 when the procurement of furniture and goods commences. All furniture, trades, and case goods require a 50% deposit to procure and 50% upon delivery project completion. Now she says, they paid the design fees and thought all was good months ago. I don't, however, have signed copies of the agreement. 2 chairs they ordered months ago were ready for pickup before Christmas. To avoid the delivery fees, I arranged for the customer at their request to pick them directly up from the manufacturer. I requested the balance owing prior to this, and which I did see an email come in, but I failed to check the amount and I instructed the manufacturer to release the chairs. After the customer picked up the chairs, I did check the amount that they had e-transferred, and it was $1,200 less than the balance due. Weird, I thought. I emailed the invoice indicating the outstanding balance and asked them to pay. I heard nothing. After Christmas, I emailed again and asked them to clear up if there were any issues to please let me know. Well, I guess they found out from the manufacturer what my cost was on the chairs, not including fabric, and flipped out. They said I had misrepresented myself and I was charging a ridiculous markup of 1.7, which in reality was 1.35 with fabric. I pointed out to them that the agreement they signed clearly indicated design fees, procurement fees, and a 10% discount on all furniture and accessories they purchased from us. I also explained that designers have different compensation models and that we believe our model provides the best value to the customer. I further explained that they had paid $7,200 in design fees and had already saved $7,400 in discounts on blinds and furniture they purchased. They don't care, and they sent an email indicating that if I did not provide all manufacturer invoices to them, indicating what I had paid for each item purchased within a week's time, that I would hear from their lawyer. What would Lou do? Well, we all know by now this has all transpired, right? because I certainly didn't get this and turn it around in a week. But I do have lots of things to say about this, and mostly it's because of exactly that. This is not real time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back now and I'm going to read sections of the email that this listener sent to me. And I'm going to just show areas where I think missteps were made that contributed to getting into this situation in an effort to understand going through it either yourself or this listener in the future, where I think some of all the little bitty things that built up, that added up to where this designer found herself. Okay, so let me do this. Okay, so here we go. In this part, I'm going back to the top. And at this part, it said all furniture trades and case goods are sourced from our suppliers and are billed at designer discount rate of 10%, which in most cases pays or exceeds the cost of designer consulting fees. I say never out this in your contract. It diminishes your value tremendously. Like, in other words, the sentence says in most cases pays or exceeds the cost of designer consulting fees. It's like you're apologizing that you have consulting fees. So I don't like that line in your contract right there. All right, my 2 cents. Now, moving on, because you see what I'm saying? It's setting up that that you're inviting his opinion, anyone's opinion on the way you bill, which we're not, right? Okay, and then a little further down, all furniture trades and case goods require 50% deposit to procure and 50% upon delivery or project completion. And I'm just curious here why we're not getting this money before delivery. This is a completely accepted practice. It is not only common as all get out in the design industry, it's sort of the way the world works now. I mean, do your clients pay Amazon after they get the delivery of their packages? Do your clients buy a Peloton bike and get that after it's delivered? Payment is before. We decide to buy something, we indicate to the person that we're buying it from by paying them for it, and then we get it. And so I would like for this designer and you out there, if you're doing the same, to change your head on this. You should get paid for your projects and your product at least, before you deliver them, okay? It's especially of late with the internet, it is actually all working in your favor to work this way, and it's completely logical. So somebody might say, well, how could I pay for an Amazon? But even if a $3,000 Peloton bike, they're not like, oh, when you get it, let us know, right? Okay, now, here's another part. They paid the design fees and thought all was good months ago. I don't, however, have signed copies of the agreement. And all I can think in my head is warning, 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 Will Robinson. Okay. Why don't you have the signed contract? Okay. And what this says to me, this speaks to me more about your process. Okay. It either means you have a process for signing and getting your contract signed and you went outside of it, or you do it a different way each time. And when you do it a different way each time, this is how things fall through the cracks. So it's one or the other. You either have I'm talking to our writer now. You have a very set way that you do it, but this time you dropped the ball and said, okay, or you can, or you have to this, or whatever the concession was, or you don't have a set formal way that you do it. So one or the other. If you have a set formal way, somebody has to sign it. They have to e-sign it with DocuSign. They have to sign it and mail it to you, whatever that is. And then once you get it, there has to be another part of your process. What do you do with it when you get it? It's not like, oh, there, I see it in the email. It's like, no. What do? We save it to a file, right? So you might have a file on your computer that you save it to, the project file. If you're working with MyDoma, you can put everything in one spot, right? And I would also print it. Like, I would print it and have it as a hard copy, with the other hard copy stuff that I've got for this client. Okay. Or maybe you have one file that's all client signed contracts, and the one file is all open contracts, and then they get flipped to a different file, or they go with the project paperwork when the project's completed. The idea is when you have a process for something, you don't drop the ball. Okay. Then it says, 2 chairs I ordered months ago were ready for pickup before Christmas to avoid delivery fees. Okay. And I'm right here. I'm like, why did we need to avoid delivery fees? You know, why? Did they say, hey, at the 11th hour, I don't want to pay delivery fees? I mean, that should have been discussed ahead of time, right? That's another can of worms. You didn't actually ask my advice on this part. But if you decided to do this, I'm curious why. Did you not have the fees as part of the contract? You know, see, other parts that I'm pulling out of this, I feel like all contributed to getting to the bad spot. Well, I guess it's part of it too, but and just in the big picture. All right. Then it says, I arranged for the customer at their request to have them pick up directly from the manufacturer. And boom, I'm warning again. Will Robinson, my arms are flailing like the robot, right? You know, I'm not one to say always and nevers, but I'm about 90% sure I would never connect my end user client with one of my wholesale trades. Like in 40 years in business, I can't imagine having ever done that. I mean, it's not like I don't have opportunity. I have trades and vendors here in New Jersey, but I can't see why. All right. So to really know why you did this, I would be open to hearing rationalizations and explanations on your part, but on face value, I'm just not in favor of this practice. I'd sooner have my husband, my grown kid, or any responsible third party, deliver this if I couldn't make arrangements for a pro service to take the delivery and do it the way it should be done, right? I mean, I just wouldn't. I wouldn't want that connection. Okay. All right. And then it says, I requested the balance owing prior to which I saw come in on an email, but failed to check the amount and instructed the manufacturer to release the chairs. I mean, alarm bells again, okay? Money is the reason you are in business, right? Because if you just want to design, you can have an amazing career working for another designer. And you just do all the, fun stuff, right? But when you have a business, okay, you gotta watch the money, all right? And it doesn't sound like to me that this is a hobby for you, so don't overlook a step that ensures you are properly paid, right? This is like Nordstrom's letting everyone leave money on the counter and checking later that everyone paid for the items they left with. I mean, it sounds crazy pants, but it's kind of like what you essentially did, right? Now, I get that there are a ton of details in a day. I get it, I do, but not tracking your money is not where you skip a step, okay, or where you phone it in. And I would have to say, if you are busy enough to be too busy to do this, to check your money every day, then you are busy enough at least for a part-time bookkeeper, 2 or 3 hours a day, to make sure all your money is accounted for every single day, okay? Because that's why you do it, right? Now it says, after the customer picked up their chairs, I did check the amount they had transferred, and it was $1,200 less than the balance due. I thought it was weird, and I emailed the invoice indicating the outstanding balance and asked them to pay, and I heard nothing. So right here, I'm going to say this contact at this point should have been a phone call, not an email. You see, at this point, we don't know if it was a mistake on the part of the client or an act on the part of the client. And we want to know this right now. We want to know. We want to just get right to the heart of the matter. What are we dealing with? Simple mistake that they can simply e-transfer the rest of the money, or an act of intention, okay? So an email doesn't cut it here. And the reason is because we need to speak to the client so we can hear what they say, both in words and in their tone, okay? Because again, this is a business, your real thing, with real bills, with real responsibilities. So you must be ready to have the real conversations. And the other thing, frankly, I want you to be ticked off enough to want to find out about your money when someone withholds it, right? If someone was eating in a restaurant and ran out on a check at a restaurant, would the waiter or the owner say, hey, we'll send them an email, right? No, they would be mad as hell, and they would go after the person ASAP. And I'm not saying you would behave this way outwardly, but your gut reaction has to be exactly that. They just took money off my plate, from my family, from me, and I need to know why, and I need to know now. okay? We approach it kindly so we can learn if it was a mistake, but we jump on it for exactly the reason you emailed me, because it turned out it wasn't a mistake. And it would have been very helpful to know that before Christmas, right? So you could start to knock this thing down and close this thing down, all right? Because when it is intentional, we want to get the communication going right away so that we can hopefully resolve it without it further escalating. Because sometimes if you snap right at it, you really can avoid the escalation. But more importantly, I really want you to be pissed when somebody doesn't pay you. Like, I want you to have that feeling of, what? What are you talking about? You didn't pay me. Okay? We don't pick up the phone and talk that way, but we have that in our gut, like, whoa, I'm doing this. This is a real thing. I got bills to pay. People are waiting on me. I'm responsible to other people, and you have my goods and you didn't pay me. This is not good. So I want you to get that in your belly, right? All right. Then she says, okay, after Christmas, I emailed again and asked them to clear up if there were any issues to please let me know. Well, I guess they found out from the manufacturer what the cost of goods was on the chair, okay? And we went through that whole thing where it really wasn't 1.7, it was 1.35, okay? But here's the thing when she said, I also explained that designers have different compensation models and that we believe our model provides the best value to the customer. OMG, ixnay on this part of the conversation. We are not... when we're in conflict or negotiation with someone, we don't want to muddy the waters with irrelevant information. It really doesn't matter how other designers charge. He is working with you. He made an agreement with you. When you introduce points that don't impact your objective, you just open the door for useless side tracks of conversation that prevent you from sticking to and solving the actual conflict, okay? Now, you're not sure I'm right on this? Think about it. If in the same conversation he says to you, well, my last designer, I paid him or her 20% less on every invoice, and that was fine with them. Or my last designer, I paid all the furniture invoices 90 days after delivery. You'd be thinking to yourself, big freaking whoop, right? That's not how my firm runs, and you agreed to my terms. So you see, don't bring up things when you are in negotiation that have nothing to do with what you're dealing with, right? So stick only to what matters, especially when you're in tough conversations, okay? The point here to have made is that it was what your contract said. He said you misrepresented yourself by charging 1.7 over net. Whether it was 1.7 or 1.35, again, I don't care. Because the fact is, you represented you would charge 10 off list, okay? So he needs a lesson in economics, and this was the place to center your conversation, not to debate how you charge or how other people charge or talk about 1.7 or 1.35. It was simple. It had a list price. You were supposed to charge him 10% under. That's what you said you would do. That's what you did. Okay? All right. And then secondarily here, I just have to say, what the heck happened with the manufacturer who let this information out? I mean, OMG, I won't even go there into this, podcast episode, but I really hope you did. This is so out of line. It is absolutely unthinkable to me. Okay. So, and if you say to me, well, because there was an invoice attached to it or whatever, this is why I never connect my consumer with my wholesaler, right? We don't even ship things to them directly unless, we have it come to us. We make sure we open everything up, make sure all the invoices are gone, and then we send it back out again if it's something we're shipping. Okay. All right. Then it goes on to say, I further explained that they paid $7,200 in design fees and saved $7,400 in discounts and blinds. Again, this is not relevant for this email. And I have to say, I believe this kind of statement is one of the reasons why so many clients are so hyper about knowing your cost, about getting discounts on furniture from you. And now when I'm saying you, I'm saying all of you, not just my dear listener who wrote to me today, okay? It is because As an industry, designers allow the conversations about discounts to continue by contributing to the conversation in ways like exactly that. When you state your value in terms of saving clients money, by them accessing your trade discounts and in you providing goods and services at prices better than we can get as a consumer without you, the designer, it tells the consumer it's okay. And it's okay to expect these discounts. Okay? I'm begging you, I'm begging all of you to really understand that your true value to us, the consumer, is in selecting the goods, in knowing the scale, in the proportion of the goods, in knowing which goods to buy and why which goods to buy, the function, the features, the benefits of the goods. The value is not saving me money on the goods. That's not your value as a designer. If I just want to save money, I can call a guy who'll call another guy and get me a deal on goods. You know what I mean? I mean, really. Okay? So do you want the language that I think you should start to think about on why your fees and your profit margins on products are worth you? Here you go. Try this on for size. How about this? Tell me how and why, in the end, I will always save money working with you as a designer. Tell me about all the mistakes that I won't make because you're on the job. Tell me about all the days I won't miss work for no reason at all because your trades will show up on the day you say they will because they are more committed to you than they would be to me as a one-off person calling for their service. Tell me about all of the hours I won't spend in and out of stores, online, and doing all the things and getting nowhere because guess what? I'm not a designer and I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay? This is how you save a consumer money, not by giving them your hard-earned professional trade discounts. All right? And I promise I am not railing at you, my dear writer, right here. I'm railing at the collective industry. I'm railing at the fact that so many of you have yet to truly understand how freaking necessary you are. This is one topic in the industry that jacks me up. I mean, in what other industry does a trade professional advertise that they have expertise to guide you, to advise you on, to give you their professional trade costs? What other trade does it? I mean, I'm begging you guys to take this conversation off the table, one by one, project by project. Switch your mindset on this. Okay? You save me, the consumer, money by me not doing stupid stuff when I design my stuff myself. That's how you save me money. All those ways. I just listed them for you, okay? Think about it. A lawyer bills you for clerical work. Do you say, I'm going to need to see the W-2 form for your paralegal? I'm not really sure. It costs X per hour. You contract to have an in-ground pool built. The company gives you a price. You don't say, I'm going to need to see your net receipts for the gunite, for the filter, and the heating unit, right? Your GC gives you a quote for a full gut reno. Do you say, I'll need a full accounting of your wholesale cost of materials? How much is the dumpster costing that's sitting out in the yard for the week? How much is the lumber? How much is the electrical wiring? How much is that attic insulation? Come on, right? Like, what is this? This makes me crazy. All right? They run businesses, and businesses have expenses, and business owners don't have to pretend they don't have expenses, and they don't have to feel bad for having them. So I don't know why the design industry gets caught up in this. I really don't. You, the collective you, need to change the conversation in the industry. You, the collective you, need to re-educate yourselves on your own value. And then you, the collective you, need to re-educate the consumers one by one, because this is getting out of hand. The lunatics are running the asylum. That's what's happening right now, okay? Because when you truly understand why you are so valuable on a project, you will not debate it with anyone, right? You will not. You'll just be like, look, if you don't get it, you can go and do the project on your own. And you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on all the dumb mistakes that you're going to make without having the benefit of my years of experience and expertise. Okay? And when you understand your value, then you will know what you will do and what you will not do every time you come to the conversation. All right? So then here's the one more thing. It says they don't care. And they sent an email indicating that if I don't provide all the manufacturer invoices to them within the week's time, I would hear from their lawyer. And she ends it, what would Lou do? So here's what Lou would do now, because those are all the things that I would have done all along, right? So just hoping and saving, heartache for the next time. But in this situation, of course, like I said, I'm sure it's 2 months since it happened. But at that point, I would say Lou would get her bases covered. Lou would find the signed contract. Hopefully it's in an email chain somewhere and not gone. And if not, I would get the documentation. So if I can't find that contract, then I would go and get the documentation for all of the monies paid to me in this last year. All right? Because even if you don't have the contract, by him paying you continually, it implies agreements, okay? It's not necessarily going to hold up in court, but it'll hold up in arbitration. Been there, done that, okay? Then Lou would call her lawyer, and I would confirm that my contract is well written and ironclad, and I would ask, if I don't have a signed contract, what does my lawyer think my plan is, okay? Then Lou would review exactly where I was with all outstanding deliverables and invoices. Do I owe him any product? Do I owe him any follow-ups on any deficiencies? Do I have any retainer money unspent yet? And is he past due on any money other than this $1,200? You see, I would know exactly where I stand, all the way to the penny. I would review all products I have deposits for, and I would find out their exact status. Which ones are ordered, which ones can be canceled, which ones could be restocked. And then I would get a very clear accounting of exactly where I am money-wise, because I want to know before I talk to him, do I have more of his money or does he have more of my money? In other words, I want to know who has the leverage. And then Lou would call him up and be ready for a hard conversation. But you see, knowing where you are financially before the conversation helps you know beforehand what you will do and what you will not do. This is key. For example, say you have $40,000 worth of product on order and he has given you $20,000 in deposits. What if you find out it's too late to cancel any of it? That would stink. But I want to know that before I go into this conversation if I'm on the hook for all of that, right? Also, you want to know, can you cancel or restock any of it, most of it, okay? Because you do have the $20K and he has a broken contract and jack squat. So what if you could cancel, $20,000 of that $40,000? You might be whole with the $20,000 that you have, okay? He doesn't need to know that at this point, but you need to know that, okay? And I'm not saying that I would necessarily plan to break his back on this and go down that road, and I would not lead with this in the conversation, but I want to know before we chat in case I need to remind him that $1,200 is not losing $20,000 over, okay? And in fact, I probably wouldn't even reveal to him that I can cancel and restock. I'd rather let him think that I would walk away from those orders, losing the balance due he owes me before he strong-armed me into any redo of our agreement. Because I would remind him, if he can pick and choose where to stick to the contract, well, pretty much I can too, right? So think twice before you maneuver the language of the contract, or you can kiss your $20K goodbye, because I'll eat that product before I deliver it to you. So, you hear me. I'm riled, and it's with good reason. This is all my inside voice, okay? My outside voice would be well counseled by my lawyer, Jamie Lieberman. It would have calmness in it. It would have reason in it. It would have collaboration in it, okay? I would understand from Jamie how far I could go, okay? What I could do and what I had to do in order to protect myself. And I would be calm as ice in the conversation. I would be kind and I'd be respectful, but I'd be backed up by my contract and our mutual agreement. And Lou would remind him of that agreement and remind him that we don't change the rules halfway through the game, all right? Now, if I did not have the leverage and I'm upside down money-wise at this moment, and in this conversation, I'm starting to feel like my blood pressure is rising because maybe I know going in, because I've checked it all, that I'm not in a good spot. And then we start talking and we start chatting and it doesn't go to a good place and I'm starting to feel like yikes here, I would end the conversation before I allowed myself to say things that would inflame it further, right? But we're human beings. And when we're a little scared because maybe we are on the line for all this money and we didn't find our contract and maybe our lawyer has said, you're not in a great spot here. You're a human person. So if the other person is being really unreasonable and just ornery or mean, it's hard to stay calm in that conversation. Believe me, I know. But you don't let yourself go. You get yourself out, okay? And I would say, I need a minute. I want to remain professional and respectful. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to end our call now. This is for me. I need to do this for me. I will call you again tomorrow. Okay? I need to do this because I need to gather myself. Okay? Notice I'm not saying we're getting upset. I'm not saying we're getting out of control or out of bounds. I'm not saying you are getting disrespectful, even if all of those things are true. Because you know what's the first thing that happens when you say, you're getting out of control? Boom. It's like throwing, what is it, flame on a fire or oil on a fire or whatever, right? It's like, that's just going to set them off. So yeah, if you really have to get out, you have to take it all on you. Okay, because you can only control you and your reactions. You cannot control him. So if anybody on the other end of a conversation like this is really being a jerk, just own you and get out of Dodge. Okay. In the end, this is why processes and systems are so crucial. When you do everything, when you get your ducks in a row in all the ways, you will always have the leverage. And when you have the leverage, there is no need to get worked up. This is why you know before a hard call like this exactly where you are. If you know your contract is solid and you know you're on the good side of the finances, you also know you have nothing to lose. So you don't lose your cool, right? Because you're just calm. If it takes 3 conversations till he sees the light, so be it. If it takes a letter from your lawyer till he sees the light, so be it. Right? When you know going in, it's all on your side, you really can just be like, well, I'd love to come to an agreement on this because you really don't want to see what happens when we stop talking, right? But again, that's inside voice, right? So I'm sure, like I said a couple of times, by this time this show is airing, that this designer has been through this already. I would love to know how you did handle it and how it went. And if something I said here helps you avoid this situation in the future, that will make me very happy. All right. The bottom line is, like my friend Lee Cockrell said on the podcast ages ago, the VP of operations at Wide World, Wide World of Disney. It was first or second year of the show. He said, when you do only the easy things, everything else gets harder. But when you always do the hard things, everything else gets easier. It's hard when you're busy to make sure your contract was reviewed by a lawyer, but do it. It's hard when you're busy and everyone is happy and smiling to say, hey, did you sign that agreement? I'm really going to need that before we get started. All right. And it's hard when you're trying to make someone happy in the moment to say, I'm sorry, you cannot pick up your own furniture. And no, I'm sorry, the company actually can't do it till after the holiday. I'm sorry. But when it's all done, you can look back now and say, wow, any one of these one hard conversations, one of these one hard decisions that I would have made and I didn't. Now, look at all I would have saved myself. Like, where you end up is worse, right? It's like for years, huge until this arthritis in my hip, right? But for years, I exercised 6 days out of 7. And for years, my friends would say, oh my goodness, you just love running or swimming or whatever it is. I just, and they would say, I just don't love it like you do. And I would look at them and I would say, I don't love it so much while I'm doing it, but I always know that I love it when I'm done. I've never run 1 mile, swam 1 lap, did 1 yoga class, and said, I wish I hadn't done that. So it's the same. When you learn a hard lesson like this, whether our writer gets her money back or not, I sure hope she does. Either way, this was a come to Jesus lesson, right? So the next time someone asks you to go out of your system, you need to go to this lesson, to this moment. I want you to remember this discomfort and compare it to the discomfort of making that little decision that they're asking to you in that moment, okay? It's what I said. It's the opposite with the exercise. It's like the reward is there. So I used to do it, not so much because I like doing it at the moment, but I was always glad when I did it. So it's the same with this. When you see these red flags and you think, I'll just this, I'll just that, go to this kind of scenario and say, oh no, see, I don't want to be there again. So let me take an extra minute to, dot the I's and cross the T's here. All right. So I hope this was helpful. There's a lot in there. I feel like there's a lot of places where improvement could be made so that you don't end up in a situation like this at some point with a client. And I'm just literally trying to point out the little ways that little here, a little here, a little here, and it adds up to you being at a disadvantage with your client. That's really what it is. I want you to really carefully think about this is your business. You run it. Take care of it. Protect it. Be fiercely loyal to it and defend it, all right? Show up for it, okay? Because when you do all that, it'll show up for you and for your family and your lifestyle, right? So, I have to say, too, if this has you a little bit nervous about your contracts, my latest book, A Well-Designed Business, the Power Talk Friday Experts Volume 2 is out, and my lawyer, Jamie Lieberman, shares her advice with you in that chapter. So if you haven't got it yet, you can get it on Amazon. And also, I would encourage you to go back and listen to Jamie's last episode on the show last summer, 2020 summer. And she really went through some of the steps for negotiation. We'll put the episode number in the show notes, okay? Because she goes right through exactly how to approach a tough conversation where you've got to really stand your ground. It's all in the learning, right? It's all in the experience. Every time you go through it, it gets a little easier. We've all been there. Believe me. Why do you think I have such strong opinions on it? Because I learned my hard lessons just like you do, right? So I just want to say thank you, all right? Sending you all kinds of appreciation for listening today, and I hope that you decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.